What is up, listeners? Welcome to The World is My Burrito, another Taquito episode. This one, it's been on my mind for probably like 3 to 4 weeks now. Trying to kind of make sure I get in at least a little bit of time on my Buzzsprout account this month so that I don't interfere with next month, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah, I've still been like hard at work at the current episode, but something it just kind of popped into my mind. So, what we're going to talk about is diversity in, I guess, like pop culture. So, in the context, it's going to be video game, but this can go for books, anime, stuff like that. And not so much like it missing, but kind of like a misplaced diversity where it's kind of confusing for kind of the content. Anyways, let's explain. So I recently replayed Horizon Zero Dawn and the DLC for it. I'd never played the DLC before. It released after I beat the game. Phenomenal game. The DLC far superior to the actual game. But I realized in this playthrough that there's only one person who genuinely sticks out in the entire game. And that's Petra. She's the forge woman that you meet that lets you test out. She's kind of like halfway through, or maybe like 3/4 of the way through the game. I don't know. I kept bouncing around between like the main game and the DLC. But she gives you access to the weapon that vacuums in and then like rapid fires bombs. But when listening to her, I realized that she's the only character who speaks uniquely. And throughout the entire game, that is the case. From beginning to end, Petra's the only character who has any type of a truly unique vernacular. So it got me thinking, like I go into the, Horizon 2 Forbidden West, which I'm playing right now. And kind of the same thing. We're expanding into a new land with new people that are supposed to be like a very different type of country. And yet, for the most part, everyone's kind of the same. So it got me thinking within the context of at least this particular video game. There's a couple of different races in the first game with more getting added on in the second. And I was thinking about number one is like color race. I feel like this is a good place to start because it's the easiest to kind of get through. Like you have all of these different cultures and there will be kind of a primary color of people or aesthetic of people. But then they have all these other people mixed in. So the quick question that comes to a head is, for a world that's not really been around too long, how did they reach this type of like ethnic diversity? And you can say that this is what Gaia, what the system was supposed to do, is just kind of like create genetic diversity. That's fine. It's whatever. The next thing, and to me, it's the most important thing, is the like language diversity and how there is none. Everyone in the game speaks the same language. They're from these different sections that, they have like hundreds of years of history of separation from these other cultures and these other people. And yet somehow they all speak English. And then they have like in their own areas, they have like mixtures of accents. So not everyone even has like the same type of English within like its own tiny area. They're their own accents in a tiny area. So they have a greatly diverse bit of accents in an area. And it's cool for the casting, getting people, not picking the same voice for everyone. In a real world scenario, that's really cool. But in the world, I think it's kind of interesting that we're supposed to believe that all of these people are from like their own areas. The Nora are from Nora lands, and then there's the Karja, and then there's the Oseram, and they don't have like a whole lot to do each other with each other. They've got a lot of beef with each other. And yet somehow they all share like accents, they all share the exact same language. And even again, within the context of the game, I think you could very quickly write off like somehow, I don't think it's ever actually explained how anyone learns their language, but somehow they all learn English. You know, whatever, I get it. English speaking people are the ones who created the system that created the new world. So sure, but how did like the accent diversity, like how is it so diverse among every pocket of people? And it's kind of like, you know, you think too hard about it. It's not a big part of the game, but you think about it and it starts falling apart, where it's like, okay, these people are from different lands, they have different cultures, they don't understand each other, they all speak the same language, they all have the same variety of accents. No one is truly unique in this game. There is so much diversity that no one is diverse, and that certainly carries over. I think it's kind of worse in 2, because people literally think the Tanakh are blood drinking savages who speak perfect English with the same variety of accents as everyone else. There are better developed kind of like religious or cult like things with the, you know, belief in the 10. Those I think are great because it's kind of giving the viewer more of a concept of like, okay, where did their language and their beliefs come from? It stems from, you know, old world holograms. But it's still interesting that the game is constantly telling you, look at how diverse these people are, and yet they're not really diverse in any way, shape, or form. In a way, I kind of almost wish there had been like a little more of a diversity, at least in language. Anyways, opinions aside, I'm not reviewing the game, I'm just talking about diversity. So then you have Petra, who has all of these like weird words and phrases and sayings, and she's the only character in the entire game who uses them. You, as you know, a native English speaking person, can understand every character in the game, but then when Petra comes around, like the gears have to start winding, because it's like, what does this mean? You know, it's like maybe Southern vernacular versus Northern vernacular, I think, is kind of what they're really going for. And it's just wild that it's like, yeah, there's literally only one character who has unique phrases and words in this entire world. In Horizon 2, they add one additional character that I've found so far, I'm still playing it, who speaks kind of similar to Petra, but a little bit different. So even that is more fun, because now you're talking like true diversity. You have one character who has a language that they supposedly grew up learning that yet somehow nobody else speaks. And then there's another character that is like, oh, okay, so these two people come from the same land, but maybe not the exact same area or different generations, because they're not speaking it identically. So yeah, it's just kind of a fun thing to think about, you know, when you're reading a book that talks about diversity, or where diversity is like the main thing, or you're watching a show, an anime, whatever. Yeah, I think this is one of those that will sit with me, where it's like, where is the diversity? And is the diversity provided like actually diverse, or is there so much of an inclusion that nothing can be diverse, if you understand what I'm saying? Like, there's so much diversity in Horizon that nothing feels diverse, because we have some of these visuals, we have the spoken word, you know, different accents, and yet somehow there is a complete lack of diversity in it, because you're trying to tell me that all these people have avoided each other, and yet everything is the same between all of them. It's like saying that everyone like in the United States speaks identically from, like, you know, Montana to California. There's not really that much of a difference in language. So it's just like a fun thought thing. Again, this has just kind of been on my mind since I switched over. Like, I re-met Petra and then switching over to Horizon 2. So like the next thing that you're reading, watching, whatever, yeah, just think about the diversity. Is the diversity merited within their context? Is there a reason for everyone to be different and yet the same? You know, should there be greater differences? Should there be more similarities? Because kind of the impact that this game has is there's a lot of talk of wars and like racism, and I'm kind of losing it, because it's like, well, I wasn't there during the war, and there are so many kind of similar looking people. There are so many different people in these particular areas, and then kind of crossover that it's like I'm not seeing it or feeling it. There is some type of like racial, unique racial diversity within the lands, but again, at the same time, it doesn't bleed throughout it. So I kind of miss a lot of the brevity of what they're trying to lay down, as far as these little bits of like racism. Yeah, it would be kind of race, Nora race, awesome race, but yeah, these bits of like, yeah, we're kind of racist toward these people. Because, you know, the Tanakh, we think they drink blood. The Noras are fucking shut-ins, who don't let anyone into their lands. You know, so yeah, fun thing to think about. Also, I guess play Horizon 1 and 2, probably on the PS5 though. There's some interesting things on the 4. Anyways, yeah, that's really kind of it. If you want to contact me about anything, social media, Twimby Podcast, Instagram, Facebook, all that jazz. Email is twimbypodcast@gmail.com. Of course, you can find me on YouTube. I still don't think I have an actual like link yet, but that's it for now. I do have something else coming up for kind of a Taquito. That'll be like a long one. I don't know. We'll see how I do that. But anyways, this is Corey. I didn't say it in the beginning. You should probably know that by now, but deuces.